Okay, ladies and gentlemen, and appreciate everyone's patience. We're certainly battling the rain here at Kentucky Speedway, but we've got a good weekend ahead of us. And Greg Biffle is kind enough to stop by the Bluegrass Hall here. He drives the number 16 Ortho Ford for Roush Fenway. Greg, I know you haven't had a chance to get out on the track yet, but tell us what you can about the rules package that will be raced here, and what your thoughts about that, and what fans are likely to see.
Yeah, absolutely. First, I wish I was in here talking about how I got the pole qualifying, but we'll save that for later. My second thought is that we should be racing in California more because they really need the water, and everywhere we've been, it's rained. So I don't know if it's following us or what the deal is, but I'm really excited about this rules package for several reasons. One, a lot of us feel like this kind of gets us back to, I want to be careful what I say, right? Back to the old days, so to speak. Gets the little bit of downforce off the car, gets the car not as aero dependent as it's become over the time of the ride height rules, the thing being down on the track, sealed off. There's ways to kind of recreate that, and we'll see how this happens when we get out on the racetrack and see how the car responds to it. I think it's going to be exciting racing. Definitely the car is going to be slipping and sliding around a little bit more. And I think another component of this rules package will be, the tire. If we continue to go down this road, is the tire providing a little bit more grip, a little less aero grip, a little more tire grip, and that tends to allow the car to slide around more and be more forgiving. The harder the tire is and the more downforce, the car is stuck until it slips and then it's gone. And you can't drive it. And that makes it difficult to race around your neighbor. If the car slides, it's right on the edge of the, slides, comes back, slides, come back, that's easy to race around your neighbor and be, aggressive. So I think this is definitely a great opportunity for us to get out there and see how this package works. And hopefully it shows some good promise, and we can continue to maybe look at this opportunity.
Questions? Let's get a mic over here if we can. We've got a wireless mic. We'll start here with Fred, and we'll go in the back.
I'm Fred with the CBS affiliate in Louisville. How much does the rules package, this new rules package, bring back the skill of the driver? That it's more to your roots of, it's less about, evening the cars, more about you're a better driver than somebody else.
I think that it's definitely that is a factor. It is a factor, and that's what in my opinion, that's what the sport needs is more about the driver and the crew, and making those right decisions and seeing it out on the racetrack versus all the technology back at the shop and the wind tunnels and everything else trying to drive, who has the best, race car when you show up. So I like this, and still the technology and the bigger teams and the guys that have the aero right are still going to have an advantage. But I think it does possibly put it back a little bit in the driver's hands, and we won't know that till we see it, because it is still way different than the way it's been in years past, even though we're kind of arriving at less downforce.
Let's go in the back, and then we'll go to Nate. Go ahead, sir.
Given the weather conditions and the way that this continues to get wetter and wetter, is this an ideal week for this to be tested, or would you prefer maybe if we keep going in this direction of not being able to test, maybe doing this another week?
Yeah, I think we're these teams and the technology that we have are so smart, and I think everybody's had this package in the wind tunnel. We really know what the car's going to drive like. I mean, or we don't know what it's going to drive like, but we really know it's going to be okay. This isn't like, oh, hope this works. We got to get some practice in. It would have been nice to get some testing in to kind of hone in that setup a little bit, but at the same time, it's fair for everyone. There's a level playing field, right? So I didn't get the test, they didn't get the test. So when when we get on the racetrack, it's going to be fair for everyone.
Let's go to Nate.
Nate Ryan, NBC Sports. Greg, that somewhat answers my question, but is there any impact of losing 4 hours yesterday, now 2 hours today? If you don't practice tomorrow, could you race this package without practicing it at all?
I think we could race this package without. We could probably race this package without testing it. I doubt whether that will happen. I think that we'll at least end up getting some practice. I think we'll need some practice on the racetrack to race this package. Because we have gotten as close as we can with the setup and the springs and the shocks and the wedge and the front sway bars we could possibly get. But I think we're going to need at least an hour practice session to get it. Okay, it's not spinning out and I've got it fairly decent. Now do we need 4 hours of testing and then an hour and a half of practice and qualifying and all that? No, we don't need all that, but we do need some track time.
Let's go to the front row here to Matt and then to Lise.
Matt Weaver, AutoWeek.com. Greg, you talk about this Kentucky package and how you think this could be the future of the sport and all this great things that it could do. But then NASCAR introduces a high downforce package for Indianapolis and for Michigan, so it's completely the opposite. Do you think that's a good direction for those tracks?
Everybody's got their own opinion, and I really kind of reserve my opinion on that until we get on the racetrack with it and actually see what it does, because I really don't have any idea what it will do. Typically, historically, the more downforce that the front guys got, the more difficult it becomes for the trailing cars behind them. And the more aero-dependent the cars become, the more difficult it is for the guys back behind them to get the little scraps that are left over, so to speak. So the less aero-dependent the car becomes, then typically the better those cars at back can do. Now, having big long straightaways, having all that drag, maybe it can produce passes, and obviously we're going to be single file when the corner comes, but so I don't really know how that package is going to play out at those particular racetracks. Yeah, I think so. It just depends on how much of a run you can get. Now, I do still believe that you're gonna. I don't know. I don't know how it's going to work, but I would think that the leader would be fast enough, being in clean air, that the guy in second can't get enough of a run at him around the corner because he's in dirty air. May not be able to get enough of a run at him around the corner to catch him on that big long straightaway. Now, if you want to talk about third, fourth, fifth, sixth place cars, that's going to be completely different. But that lead guy, when he has clean air, man, he's going to be potentially gone, or stay far enough away, because once you get in that wake, your car won't stick to the racetrack, and you can't get that run off the corner to catch him on that big long straightaway. So these are all things that we won't know until we get there. What we're doing here, we kind of have a basic idea how that's going to work.
Let's go to Jessica, and then we'll go to Chris, and then to Mark, and then we'll come back to Fred.
Jessica Ruffin, NASCAR.com. You were involved in that last lap wreck at Daytona where Austin Dillon went airborne, hit the catch fence. Can you just describe what you saw during that wreck and then your reaction to it?
Yeah, I mean, that was, we definitely don't want to see big wrecks like that. And typically when we get bunched up in big groups, that potentially can be the outcome. And, your first reaction is, that these cars are really safe, and you certainly, it concerns me, or probably everyone, every time we see a car in the fence to any degree, right? Because there can be parts and pieces, or then you're relying on the fence to hold hold up for that vehicle. We don't like to test those. Personally, I don't think we like to test those things. And one other observation I had, I went back and looked at it because, I was about, 13th, 14th, 15th, depending on how the line came across. When we crossed the start-finish line, I was about 4 rows back. It seemed to me like we wrecked after the start-finish. It seemed like the race was over, and then we had an accident. Or technically, the race was over. So I had to go back and kind of look at what happened. So that could have been the white flag lap, or that could have been lap 100. So that's really irrelevant. The accident did happen, and it was scary, definitely. And none of us want to predict what the outcome could have been if the car would have hit up there differently. That's definitely a scary incident. And I've heard a lot, I've heard a little bit of rumor about the speed we're going and these and that. These cars, when you get bunched up and one guy gets jammed underneath the other guy and you're pushing these cars, they're going to get upside down or flip up in the air no matter what speed we're going. If we're going 125 miles an hour, when you jam a wedge underneath another one, it's gonna pick it up in the air. So it's just a testament to how safe our sport is. NASCAR's done a unbelievable job at safer barriers and runoff areas and paving areas. I think about how dangerous Pocono was and how safe of a racetrack it is now with all the paving and the safer barriers they've done on the inside. And I know it takes time for these tracks to react to these situations, but it just goes to show you that the engineering and the whatnot on that fence is what it needs to be and what it's supposed to be, and it did its job. And the safety equipment did the job inside the car, and the good thing is we can learn from that and try and make improvements if we can.
Let's go right behind you to Chris, and then we'll go to Mark Garrow.
Chris Knight, CatchFans.com. Greg, how will the track surface affect the new package this weekend?
This is kind of one of the bumpier racetracks. It has a lot of character to it than the other racetracks we go to. So I think that it's kind of standard typical for us that this surface will be some people said this may not have been the ideal spot with the how bumpy it is and flat corners and whatnot for the aero package, but I agree. I think it's going to be a good package for here, and the surface and whatnot. We just got to get rid of the rain so we can get out there and experience it.
Let's go to Mark Garrow, and then we'll come back here to Fred.
Mark Garrow, PRN. Greg, we have the high downforce package, Indy, Michigan, this low downforce. There's talk of other packages. They're track specific. Do you think that's a good direction to go, since tracks we race on are so vastly different, from a short track to a road course and so on, that maybe to improve the competition you have a series of packages to try to do the same thing?
Yep.
at different racetracks?
I have to say that I would have never expected NASCAR to do something like this in a long time, and I can't applaud them enough on the decision they've made to do the low downforce package here and a high downforce package somewhere else, and look at other packages, because those are bold moves, and it just shows you that they're not afraid to make changes and make decisions on improving racing and passing and the excitement of our sport. And I still can't believe that we're sitting here with this aero package and the aero package we're going to Indy and Michigan with. I think it's the greatest thing that we could have done. Now, whether they're all going to be right or all going to be wrong, or everybody likes them or agrees with them, that doesn't matter. What matters is we're doing it, and we're going to see what works in real life races. And they're going to be exciting no matter what. And then we can go from there, just like the double file restart at the All-Star race, right? Why do we have double file restarts now? because we did it at the All-Star race and everybody loved it. And so here we are. And yeah, would this have been a better package to race the All-Star race this year? Absolutely. We just weren't in that position yet. We weren't ready. And I think that's an opportunity that we missed, but they've implemented it here.
Got time for two more questions, Fred, and we'll end with Lee.
Fred again with the CBS in Louisville. The bumpiness of this track, or however you want to call the surface, how much of that helps good drivers move up, for lack of a better expression? The analogy kind of like to the U.S. Golf Open, where some guys complained about the greens and other guys really moved up. Good putters seem to do better. Here at this track, do good drivers get to move up some because of the challenges, and it marries to your skill set, for lack of better words?
Yeah, you probably have some. You're probably chipping away at the edge of something that could be, but it's it's still really team driven and car driven, and the guys have a better package about getting over these bumps better. Maybe some drivers are a little bit better at being used to the car, moving around like that. But I wouldn't say it's gonna, just because you'll run well here or well there, I wouldn't necessarily say that makes a good driver. But you're right. So this may adapt to someone's ability or skill set better than other places.
Final question, Lee.
Lee Spencer, Motorsport.com. When they introduce the car tomorrow and then the Gen 6, it was, we had all this talk about cost containment. Back in the day there were 15, maybe even 20 different cars for a variety of, tracks. You might have just track-specific car here, there, and the other. Has cost containment really gone out the window with all of this in favor of trying to produce the best product on the racetrack? Because I guess at this point, cost doesn't matter. It's just about getting the product right.
Well, so the good thing about the way our cars are designed and built today is that it's easy to change that downforce. It's easy to shift that downforce and the drag. So the things that they're doing are basically just accessories on our car more than a car change. So by going from a 3.5-inch spoiler to a 9-inch spoiler or a 7 doesn't necessarily cost the team really any money at all. I mean, it's a piece of aluminum. So that really doesn't cost us anything. And then changing the width of the front pan, which changes the downforce, there again, it's simply just a piece that's added or taken off the car. And so the cost part of this experiment is fairly inexpensive, other than maybe the wind tunnel time and those kinds of things. But as far as the change in the actual car, it's really really superficial and minor. No, now if we start changing the chassis and start changing the rear end housing and start changing all that stuff, yes, and the brakes or something else, that's going to cost a great deal of money. But when we, take the bolts out and change the rear spoiler, that didn't cost us anything. I don't think so, because we're already doing that, so that's not really gonna change anything. I'm saying when we got this package, we had to put it up front and spend a short amount of time in the wind tunnel we probably weren't expecting. But I think everybody did that. So I mean, the cost was, I think that the teams are already experiencing all that anyway. The way that they're doing it is not costing the teams a lot of money, in my opinion. I'm not running the team, but I know about changing spoilers and pans, and that doesn't cost anything, technically.
Greg, thank you so much for coming in. We wish you a lot of luck this weekend at Kentucky.